Hi, everyone. I am LaurieAnn. I am that gal from Milton, Ontario, Canada, and I am with.
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas. We'd like to welcome you to our Lift Your Story podcast.
And on today's episode, we're really pleased to have Mel Mason back. She is the clutter expert. So thank you for being here, Mel, again. Nice to see you again.
It's great to see you both again. Thanks for having me. I love coming on your show.
Great. So last time we spoke, you were finishing up your book. It's now finished, correct? So can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. It is the book Freedom from Clutter. It's the guaranteed foolproof step-by-step process to remove the stuff that's weighing you down. It not only addresses the clutter on the outside that accumulates, but it addresses all the internal clutter. It teaches you what the different types of clutter are, and it gives you strategies to address them all, as well as it's kind of a, what do you call it? A kind of a memoir. There's a lot of my story in there. So you learn a lot about my journey and how I went from the cluttered, messy kid that I was to who I am today.
Okay.
That's really exciting.
Well, I know
So
clutter is
I
a
have
big
to say
issue
something. Oh,
for a lot of people.
yeah.
Go
Did you
ahead.
say clutter is a big
Sure.
issue for a lot of people? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just in the US alone, 1 in 4 US households has a clutter problem. So it's definitely a big issue.
So I just had something to bring up. Sorry, but my I was talking to my mother actually yesterday. I should be calling her more often. I'm one of those daughters, but we were talking about the fact that, you know, she's 85, my dad's 88. They've got a very large house. They're very lucky to still have been able to, you know, live in a home that long, and they don't want to move out. But like my mom said, you know, it's been 50 years of gathering stuff, and she's trying to declutter, and she has the hardest time. She cannot throw anything away. She doesn't mind giving things away, but then she gets a little offended if you don't take what she's giving. And I tried to explain to her, but Mom, some of us don't have the room for it. But what she's trying to do is then once it's out of the way and she's given it, it doesn't really bother her what's going on because she won't know. So even if we take it over to Salvation Army, as long as she doesn't know. But how do you deal with somebody who's got, like, it's really, really tough for her because she just gets so sentimental attachments to pretty well everything.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before, but letting go is really a muscle. And if you've been accumulating for years and being in this like attached, contracted state, hanging on to things, you're not going to be willing to just let go of stuff willy-nilly and just release all at once. It just doesn't happen. It's not possible. That's why that show Hoarders doesn't really work. They make you go through everything all in a 4-day period. And then when the show's done filming, it all comes back worse than it was before. She has to start working on things that aren't so sentimental first, like the items that are easy to let go of first, and build that muscle, and then move on to more sentimental items. You start with the easy stuff first and build your way up. And if you could actually convince her to just donate it to a local nonprofit and trust that I don't know if she's spiritual or not, but whether it's God, source, the universe, that energy will get it to the right person who will appreciate it just as much as she will, rather than giving it to individual people, because that's just a way of passing our clutter off to others. We have the tendency to just want to give it to other people. Instead, if we let it go to a nonprofit, then it can actually get to the person who will really appreciate it as much as we do. I had a client once who just absolutely loved elephants. And I mean, she had everything elephant. And I mean, it was elephant tchotchkes and elephant jammies and elephant this and elephant that. And she had a really hard time letting go of anything elephant, like other things she could let go of, but the elephant stuff was just really challenging. And when I presented it to her like that if you just let it go to a local nonprofit, someone who loves elephants just as much as you do will get these items and they'll appreciate them just as much as you do. And that really helped her to shift and start letting some of her elephant stuff go.
I have another question to that one, because you were saying about the clutter being a part of also internal. So that's where I'm going to bring the next one about. And my mother, she was bringing up the fact that she grew up in the Depression. They didn't have anything at the time. So henceforth, her connection to holding on and being grateful for everything she has. And so she's having a hard time getting rid of what she got. And she says she doesn't know, but that's what she connects it to, was having been brought up as a child in the Depression. And so that's why her attachment to what she's acquired.
Yeah.
How would you go about helping someone detach those two connections?
Yeah, I mean, it all comes from this one process that I teach all my clients, because ultimately our connection to things, our attachments to things, like we can only be in 3 states. We can either be resisting what's uncomfortable, or attaching to what we're hanging on to, what feels good, what we don't want to let go of, or we can allow things to simply be. And so resisting and hanging on to are very rigid, and they're very contracted, and they don't allow for energy to flow. And so what people need to do is first learn how to be present and simply allow the moment. So I have a process that I teach people called allowing the now, which is simply just turning your attention inward and getting quiet and just being present with your body and your breath, and just noticing what's happening in the moment without judging it, without trying to change anything about it, without doing anything. It's just, don't just do something, sit there. You know what I mean? Just be present. And what people don't realize is the minute that you can do that, you start to make space inside of yourself. And because the outside is a mirror of the inside, that space on the inside starts to translate into the outside. So what would start to happen if she did that process consistently for 5 minutes a day, every day, is that that grip on things would start to loosen. That fear of not having enough, and from what happened in the Depression, that fear of lack and not ever having enough will start to release and let go. And she'll find it easier to let go of things little by little. But again, it's also a muscle you have to build. She's not going to let go of it all at once. She's not going to be just like, oh, I can just let go of it all. It just doesn't work that way. But she will start to let go little by little. I didn't even have that much stuff to go through, and it still took me about 12 years to get through my clutter once I shifted from being the cluttered, disorganized person that I was to someone who loved creating order out of chaos.
Well, one thing I've noticed is like where I grew up, there was like 5 high schools in our part of Dallas. Okay. So when Facebook came along, we have all these groups. We have 2 baby boomer groups I belong to, and it's made up of these people in these 5 high schools, basically. But I've noticed whenever we meet, when we start talking about stuff, I've noticed that we have the people that have everything. They've had the stuff since they were in the 1st grade. They've got all the newspaper, the bulletins, the picture, all that. Then we've got the other people that are, hey man, I've got rid of all that crap. You know, I'm downsizing. You know, I'm a minimalist now. I mean, I have nothing, you know, and so it's interesting because it's really about 50-50 when you talk to people. You know, you got those that, oh, I've still got that stuff, and they, you know, you talk about their garage. Yeah, well, I can barely get my wife's car in, you know, but, and the others go, oh man, my garage is empty. I have nothing there. You know, I've got rid of everything. I kept all the stuff right from a kid. I got rid of that, you know, gave it to my kids or gave it to somebody else I went to school with that wanted it, you know. So it's interesting that my age group, that we're like, it's like half. I mean, really like half. So, you know, what do you see? I mean, is yours just all over the place with the people you work with?
Predominantly the age that I work with is, you know, 50 to 75 and older. That's predominantly the age group that is ready to come and actually start making changes. I have had some younger clients, but the majority of my clients are definitely seniors for sure.
Yeah. Like you say, we've got 50 years of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you go through all those years of accumulating and not letting go, and then it just becomes so much that, you know, it's number one, people don't have the physical strength to go through it on their own because it's, you know, heavy boxes of stuff and they don't know where to start. They don't know what to do with it. So I come in and help with all of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I was telling you when we first met, like I had a 2,400 square foot home with a huge garage and there was so much there, but then I lost everything, you know, because my business went under. I had no choice. I had to go down to 900 square feet. So there wasn't a choice there. And the funny thing is it was scary. And there's still things like I'll sit there and go, oh, that book, you know, because I had like 5 cases of books and I went down to like, you know, less than one. But I know that I can find them and buy them again if I have to. And so it's a little bit better. But it wasn't easy. But when I got to the end of it and I was in that 900 square foot apartment, I felt so much freer. Like I'm sitting there going, woo, no garage, with a bunch of stuff I don't even look at anymore. And
Right.
all this stuff I never wore, except for I had some really nice gowns that I could have used at the Excellis, but now, you know. But in the end, the feeling of that freedom, and right now I've, you know, gone into a little bit bigger and I notice a little bit extra stuff coming in. And I'm starting to think, wow, if I move again, it's going to be a little bit more than just my little bits that I had, which was so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And you did mention, I love that you mentioned, you know, with the books that you noticed that, you know, there was one that maybe you was like, oh, that book, but then you went to, I could just buy it again. And that's the thing, is that when you can let go of something and just trust that if you absolutely need it again, the universe is abundant. It will provide for you. You'll be able to get it again if you absolutely need to. There's been plenty of things that I've let go of that I was like, oh, I could have used that. But it's not like I'm like regretting that I let it go, because the abundance is always there to get what I need when I need it. It's much better to let things go and make the space for the abundance to happen in your life than to hang on to things that you're not using and store them for someday, because everything is made with a purpose. And if it doesn't get used for that purpose and it's just shoved in a drawer or in a closet or stuffed in your garage and it's not getting used, you're stifling its purpose. And then you're basically like stuffing the energy down and you're blocking the flow of energy and abundance from coming into your life. So it's much better if you can let things go and keep that flow moving and trust that the universe will always provide what you need.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I may need this. You go put it on the shelf in the garage, some little odd nut, bolt, screw, whatever. And then it's been there for 10 years and you're trying to, I don't need this, and throw it away. Then a week later, oh, dang, last week I could use that. I mean, that is so typical of what happens.
It's true. Now, I have a question for you, Mel. So this is a little bit more on the kind of a sad side, but let's say that you have younger clients whose parents have passed away and left a house full of stuff. Do you ever assist younger couples in helping to declutter? Because there are obviously certain items they're going to want to keep, but they'll probably want to keep everything. And that's a hard thing to, you know, disengage from what's, yeah. So I was just wondering if you have ever been in that position to help a younger couple with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens more often than not. I mean, there's a lot of couples that have, you know, it's usually not necessarily in the moment. It's the fact that they've already had the stuff from years prior. The parents have passed and they've accumulated and it's been mixed in with all of their stuff and it's just sitting in the garage. So helping them sort through that and get through things. But it's always starting with the stuff that's easy first and not so much the sentimental things like the photo albums or the really sentimental things like the letters or stuff like that that take up a lot of energy and are really emotional. It's maybe starting with, you know, the pots and pans that you're not going to use because you already have your own nice set kind of thing. And somebody else could be using these pots and pans, or your mom's clothes that you're really never going to wear. They're not your style anyway. They're way outdated. They'll come back in 20 years. So donate them to somebody else kind of thing. But yeah, just helping them. And I just recently, one of my my very first client that I worked with for 6 years just reached back out to me because her mom just passed. So I'll be going to help her deal with all the stuff in her mom's house in the next month or so, a couple months or so. So yeah, it's very common.
Well, I know for me, my brother, when he passed away, he lived by himself and he had an apartment. Okay. But I know whenever I had to go in there, you know, you feel like you're invading their privacy. You know what I mean? Or I did. I felt like, and I've been in that apartment 1,000 times, but I mean, I just felt like here I am going through his drawers, going into his closet, you know, and he was a neat freak, so it really wasn't bad because I mean, he was, you know, he was clutter free, believe me. But still, it's just the idea of going in there. And you know, it's just weird. I mean, I always felt like, golly, I'm really invading his privacy. But I mean, I know I wasn't. But I mean, it's just that feeling, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I can't imagine going through somebody's house, the whole house. You know.
Yeah.
How hard that would be, just for that, for me personally, anyway.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys remember, but that's part of my story. When my brother committed suicide and I was 15 years old, he left all of his belongings to me. Now, luckily, he only had a little apartment, but at 15 years old, I had to go through his stuff and decide what I wanted to keep and what other people could have because everything was left to me.
Yeah, that would be hard at that age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So firsthand knowledge with that.
yeah, I mean, I can't think back when I was 15. There's no, I mean, that would be such a foreign concept. I mean, so yeah, I get that. So
It's really awful too.
yeah,
The other day I was walking around my apartment and I still have some decluttering to do. And I thought, good luck, kids. And that's how I love it. It's not gonna be my problem.
Love that.
yeah. So Mel, kind of tell us a little bit about your book, kind of what all it covers.
Oh, it talks about the different types of clutter, the internal clutter, the external clutter, talks about strategies for dealing with it all and how, external clutter doesn't just show up as, stuff in our environment. It shows up as excess weight on our body, like love handles. It shows up as digital clutter on our computers, people who drink too much, gamble, all of that stuff. That's all external clutter. It all comes from the same internal clutter. So, and then it really just provides you with all the steps to address the different types of clutter and just really shares a really in-depth personal, my stories in there. So you learn a lot more about me through the book.
Oh, wow. That sounds
Digital clutter is a pain in the neck. Let me tell you, I have a gigabyte from stuff right back to 19, when I was first on the computer. And in fact, this is funny because I've been even going through, these. Do you remember what those are?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The floppy disks.
Yes. I remember the older ones before that.
Yeah, the big
the
5 1/4. Yeah.
Really the floppy disk.
Yeah.
The real floppy. Yes. I have a client who has a reader for those ones that you have.
Yeah, I have one too. I have one for that and my CDs, and I just plug it into my computer and it can read it. I'm kind of happy that I didn't throw them out because I did find pictures of my children that I don't have, because that's the problem too. I have all the boxes of my pictures, which I did declutter and only kept the good ones. And then the rest I did some digital ones for it. But the problem with digital is, like, you really need to find something to manage those as well, because when you have more than one computer, like most of us do, which one was that on? Now you've got OneDrive where it all goes into one place, but it's still it's crazy. I'm pretty sure I probably have over like 50,000 pictures.
Oh yeah, it's so much easier to get digital photo clutter now because it's digital cameras. It's so easy, and it's like, but the truth is, how many of them do you actually really go back and look at?
Yeah.
Once you've posted them on Facebook, do you really go back and look at them?
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Good point.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, LaurieAnn. How is your letter reading going? All those your box of letters that you keep?
Yeah, I keep pulling them out.
I love it.
I won't. It's very accessible. That's the nice thing, is there's one thing keeping your something like that. And it's actually going up a little bit too, because I'm getting cards and letters from people. But it's always accessible, and I go in there and I'll grab something from notes from my friends. In fact, one friend I hadn't spoken to in about 5 years, we just connected again. And I just laugh going back through hers because we had such a good time. And some of the letters, like, meeting a soccer team and they wanted us to party with them. And then our dance teacher that wore these pants, and we used to go fushka fushka. And that's all in the letters. So it's kind of fun reading back at them and going, oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
So, but accessible.
Yeah, it has to be.
But that's the thing. If they're in a box hidden away, then what good are they, right? Then that's when I would agree with you. Why, if you're not looking at them, then why have them? But mine are accessible, and I do go back to them, and they're fun.
Well, for me, when I moved out, basically my parents just chunked everything. So anything I had, I couldn't go back and get it. So when we had kids, we kept all that stuff. We kept the drawings, the report cards, all the stuff from the kids growing up. Well, mean, we had it, because my thought was, someday you'll want your kids to see this. You'll want to show your kids, right? Because I didn't have that opportunity, right? So anyway, when they got married and they got their own house, so all of a sudden, every time we went to visit, we carried a box of that stuff to them. What is this, Dad? Well, that's just, oh man, well, you throw it away if you want to, but you show it to your kids. So we went through the pictures the same way. So we had, a ton of pictures. We go up there, hey, come here. Here's your dad when he was first grade. Here's, showing the grandkids their pictures and stuff, So we gave them all their pictures, and we had trophies in the attic. It was from karate, from soccer. And so my oldest son's name's Chris, and I called him. I said, Chris, we got a bunch of trophies. You want some? No, Dad, throw that junk away. I said, well, don't you want just like one thing, like the plaque when you were the MVP at the soccer? No, throw that away, Dad. Throw it away. I don't need that crap. I said, okay. So I did. I just, I threw it away. He didn't want anything, nothing.
It was your clutter that you kept because you thought your kids were going to want it, and then you passed it off to them to deal with. They didn't ask for it.
Yeah. So yeah, but anyway, it's just, yeah.
But that's fair to say though, because out of my 3 children, my daughter does I kept, when she was on the front of the newspaper in the Toronto Star, which is a huge one, she was in there. And so when she came to visit about 2 months ago, I go, I don't know if you want these. And I have my own copy because I like reading back on them too. But she was all excited. So it depends on the child. Like she was so happy that I kept that stuff for her. But then, like you said,
know about it,
but then
know that you kept it.
And if I hadn't, she would have said, Mom, where are the things?
But if you didn't keep it, she would have even never remembered.
Yeah, that's true.
It was only that you brought it up that she thought about it.
That's true.
Yeah.
But she was very grateful for it, though, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so it's not all children would sit there and say, no, Dad, throw that out, or Mom, throw that out.
No, definitely not. There are some kids that definitely want it, but if they didn't know that you had it, then they wouldn't want it because they wouldn't know you have it.
Well, that's kind of like when we were drawing up our trust. I asked the kids, I said, is there anything of mine that you particularly want? Like, if you do, I'll put it in the trust so that you make sure you get it. Oh, no, not really, Dad. I can't think of anything. I said, okay. So then I told Barbara, I said, look, this is specific things. I want you to give them to Chris. I want you to give these to Stephen. If they want to throw them away, that's fine. But I want them to have them. Now they do what they want to with them, and so I said, well, okay. But, it's just a lot different than when me growing up, I guess,
Yeah.
I didn't have anything, but then, I want them to have something, so I don't know. But good luck going through the house is all I can tell them.
That's what I say. Good luck to you. I've gotten rid as much as I can. Now the rest is up to you.
I have a motto, ABP, always be purging. You're never done. Because we're always accumulating. So always to be going through stuff.
I totally agree with that. Because we're still finding, even though we've cleaned stuff out, we're still finding stuff like, hey, when's the last time you wore this? Does it fit? Can we get rid of it? Well, yeah, probably.
Yep. It just requires you to actually look at it. You just have to start looking at things. It's such an ingrained habit in me that, most people will come home after working and then they, have dinner and then they watch TV. Well, I'm someone who winds up just decluttering something instead, or, organizing something. A couple of weeks ago, I went through I only have a 2-drawer filing cabinet, and then I have a separate file for all my taxes, but I have a 2-drawer filing cabinet, and it was like, oh, it's time to go through this again. I got rid of 19 pounds of paper. It's like practically empty now. It's like,
wow.
You can it's just like, I don't need any of this stuff anymore. It's like time to move on. Let it go. And I did weigh it. I literally put it in a paper bag and weighed it.
Really? It's funny you mentioned that because, files, that's something you put stuff in and forget about.
Yeah, out of sight, out of mind.
And so I'm trying to put something out, shoving something down. I'm thinking, wait a minute. So I go there, 2019, 2018, 27. What do I call this crap in here? So, same thing. I started with, I don't shred. So
The
that,
nice
you
thing
know,
is you end up with extra file folders that you can start with new stuff in.
yeah,
Yeah.
or you got
Empty
space.
file folders, hanging files. I know I've got like a whole bunch of hanging files. Like this much of space takes up hanging files that are empty in my drawer. It's like, oh, got a bunch of hanging files, but nothing really in there. So that's good.
Well, yeah, and so we had our air conditioning unit replaced last summer. So the guy comes up and he goes, this guy I've known for years, he goes, I got to ask you a question. I said, okay. He goes, all those boxes up there that say taxes that go back to like, 1980, do you really need those? I go, yeah, probably not. It's supposed to keep the last 7 years, I think. But he says,
Yeah,
Yeah.
7 years. Yeah.
you might want to sometime just get rid of that stuff.
Yeah, what people don't really know is you need to keep your tax returns for 7 years, but you only need to keep the supporting documentation for 3 years. Unless you're being investigated for fraud, they can go back further, but they only investigate 3 years back unless you've committed fraud. So
Oh, wow.
you only need to keep the supporting documentation for 3 years and your actual returns for 7.
Yeah. So that's
Oh,
that's
look at
another
that.
that's another one of my.
Well, that's in the US. I don't know about Canada, LaurieAnn. You're in
I'm
Canada.
good. No, I know. And having heard that though, I'm going to look into it because I know it's 7 years, but I'm just wondering if it's the same here. So
Mhm.
it piqued my curiosity.
Yes.
I mean, that goes back to out of sight, out of mind.
Mine. Yeah. Once you put it away out there, then you don't if you're not in the habit of actually looking at stuff and going through stuff, then it's just there. It's
Yeah.
gone. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's that's something that guilty. So
You're not alone, Roy. You're not alone.
I have a
Have
lot
you
of
read
good-
my book yet? Just read my
Well,
book.
I need to get it. I do.
Well,
need
you
to
can
get it.
download it.
Yeah, you can get a free download. If you just go to decluttering-spaces.com/freedom from clutter, you can just get a free download of the ebook. You can get the whole thing.
Cool. So how can our listeners reach out to you, Mel?
Best way to reach me is via email, info@declutteringspaces.com. And if you want to grab a copy of my new book, you can get the whole book, the ebook. You can download it by going to declutteringspaces.com/freedom from clutter.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Cool.
And if you download the book, if you get all the way to the end of the book, there's actually a way to access a free coaching call with me. So it comes with a free coaching call.
Oh, great.
And you can't get a coaching call with me unless you actually commit to working with me for a year. So to get an hour of my time coaching with you is extremely valuable.
Okay. Cool.
Fantastic.
It might take
Really
you more
nice
than a year.
having you on here again.
Likewise, thanks for having me. It's always
Yeah,
a
it
pleasure
was.
to hang out with you too.
Yeah, and I don't know if you know, Mel, we're doing like the last Sunday of every month. We're doing like we call it a unite, which we're trying to get people to come back on. We can all meet each other. We can all collaborate with each other and just help each other out. So
Yeah, let's look at that one at the end of January. I'm traveling for the holidays, so I'll be gone for about 15 days. So
okay, cool.
I'll be
Nice.
gone at the end of December.
So
Enjoy your holiday.
you're
I
not
will.
going up where it's cold and snowy, are you?
Unfortunately, I'm going to where it's cold and possibly snowy, yes, but that's what you do for the love of your niece and the rest of my family too. But it's really my niece motivating me to come spend Christmas with her. So
Fantastic.
I'm willing to torture myself and hibernate for 2 weeks. So I'll probably put on the winter 19 instead of the COVID-19 because I probably won't be out hiking as much.
Yeah, I was gonna say you won't be out running around, will you? Okay, well,
All
thanks
right.
for coming on, Mel. We do appreciate it. Had a lot of fun.
Likewise, thanks for having me, you guys.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.